Hello and welcome to the men's roundtable. I'm Nathan Francis. I'm joined by Tanner Dagenais, Bryce Cluett, and Matty Denz. These three men are awesome. They're three self-sabotage coaches. They're so much more than that. They're awesome people. They're awesome men, and they're doing the work to inspire more men and more people out there to take back control of their power, take back control of their lives, and live better and healthier, cleaner, stronger lives. And I've had these three on my podcast. I've been on Tanner's. I've had Matty and Bryce on my Breaking Free podcast. It's good to connect with these boys, these men, should I say. They're friends of mine, and I really, really love their content. And the more people that can be inspired and it's just awesome. So please connect with Bryce, Tanner, and Matty. Matty at the moment is doing some awesome reels, so jump on there and take a look. Bryce has got some awesome posts, and Tanner's concentrating on the video game. So without any further ado, boys, men, welcome. Introduce yourselves. Maybe start with Tanner, and we'll work our way through, and let's see what comes up. I'm looking forward to this today, so let's rock and roll.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hey, everyone. My name is Tanner Dagenais. I actually help gamers. I help them defeat their weed addictions. So if you're smoking a lot of marijuana, you're just hiding away from the real world, you're just playing video games nonstop, I'm here to help you. I was once there, and there is a way forward to really start to enjoy your life again and to be as into living your life as you are playing video games. So give me a shout out, and love to see you guys all here. Thank you, Nathan.
Rossi.
Yeah, awesome to be here, guys. Thanks for inviting me. Again, I've had conversations with you guys before. We're all in that space of self-sabotage, certified coaches. Really, that's kind of, for me, it's kind of taken on a new thing where I'm doing a lot of stuff in my own life, but decided I can help other men with this. And as we mentioned in the green room there with Matty, speaking up and finding your voice. I think that's very important for people now, to not just to be silent in your own life and doing things and having a view and just kind of keeping quiet. We need men now to start stepping up. We need men to start getting a little bit vocal. I teach a lot of that stuff within my Man on Fire program, which, is about speaking up against injustices that are going on. So when we start to use our conscious mind and get out of that subconscious, we start to see what's going on. Stuff doesn't make sense. It doesn't play well with us right now, right? Where the attack on our children, right? The attack on our male power. And we need men to not only understand how their subconscious works, how to reprogram themselves for success, but now to start speaking up and say, hey, that's not right, right? Instead of standing by and taking a video of somebody being injured, let's step in, right? And that's where I think we're taking this men's roundtable, is to understand that we can speak our voice. We all have opinions. They're all valid. And I'm hoping that we uncover some of our great conversation this evening.
Beautiful, Bryce. Awesome. Matty, introduce yourself, brother.
What's up, y'all? Coach Denz here. I'm Matty Denz. I am a self-sabotage health coach. I have a background in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's how I started off coaching people, men and women alike. But it seems like I'm falling more into this world of men's coaching, being a man myself, or somebody that takes pride in what it means to be a man, physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. I found that I'm going to use my voice now to empower other people, to help them find that in themselves. And yeah, like Bryce was saying, I think the world needs that now more than ever. People need to speak up. We need people to know that they're not the silent minority, but they're the suppressed majority. And basically, we can come together and help our fellow men and do stuff like this. Like, I love that I'm together with the boys here tonight. And I think in general, there's more people that are thinking what we're thinking and want to be doing what we're doing. They just need a little push. They need a little guidance and motivation. And the three of us, or the four of us, I should say, are kind of in that position to be doing it. And I'm just very humble and grateful to be in that position, and look forward to speaking with you guys tonight.
Awesome.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Well, what's our first topic, boys? Men, what are we going to go with? Who wants to start speaking first?
Well, I mean, I'll definitely take the floor, because I've had a couple things that have come up, since we decided to schedule this. one of the big things that I've talked about a little bit was voting. And so we hear voting, right? We think voting politicians. They use all these different slogans, to express yourself or to, have a say and to vote. But I've sort of molded that a little bit more into now voting with your actions, voting with your actions every day. So I think that's an important thing to talk about, is just how we as people, maybe we have some people listening that don't have a voice yet, or a little bit, they're still kind of in that tribe where they're like, oh, I don't really want to speak up because I'm going to get attacked. But you can vote with your actions, and we do that every day, right? We buy a technology and we tell people how great it is. Well, let's start to vote with, not buying processed foods that are going to harm us, not feeding that to our kids, and start being vocal about what we're doing in our everyday life that's going to sort of spark change, right? We have to understand how important and how powerful we have these decisions we make in our everyday life when it comes to nutrition, mindset, the books we're reading, the time we're putting in for, doing movement, like Matty's doing the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I mean, that stuff is, it should be ingrained in us to be doing this, but instead, similar to a post that I just put out this evening, was how, the US takes 86% of the world's prescribed medications, and they think they're healthy, but they're number 68 on the most healthy lists when it comes to countries, right? So we got to start voting more with our actions and being vocal about it, to say, hey, no, I don't feed my kids that. That's poison. So I hope that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. I'll just quickly chime in too. There's so many other sources of food. It's like, well, like here in Australia, our supermarkets are Coles and Woolies. Woolworths, you guys have Costco and Walmart and all of those. It's like, well, we can turn our back on them and go and find some local farmers that are, that are getting shit on it at the moment, because they're growing the food, they're doing their thing, but they're not getting promoted or anything. It's like, go and suss out there's plenty of farmers markets on, especially here where I'm from. It's like, go and suss these guys out and speak to them and support them. It's like, but yeah, as Bryce said, so vote with your money too. Like, don't spend your money in these places. It's basically 85% of the supermarket food's toxic poison. It's like, go and find some local farmers or some people that are growing organic, healthy food and support them. And you'll find you'll feel better. You'll be stronger. You'll be more energetic. You'll be more vibrant. That's just my 2 cents. But yeah, just go find some farmers and support them. It's huge.
Absolutely. And what you guys were saying too about, vote with your money or vote with your dollars. Money's an exchange of energy. And look at what happened. Like Tanner, you probably saw this in the US with Target and Bud Light. And so, it's pretty quick how you can affect change in terms of voting with your dollars. But I like what Bryce said about voting with action. And so, because I don't believe in voting in terms of, well, you just got to vote better, and then the psychotic government won't stamp on your face all day long with the boot. I don't believe in that. But if you take voting and you think about it, well, why am I casting a vote for somebody else to do something to help me in my life? Why don't I cast the vote to myself in my action? And so every day, have that vote, your name's on the ballot. What are you doing with your life, your actions? How are you spending your money? Who are you exchanging your energy with? Instead of, and again, the mindset is everything. Instead of the mindless, well, I worked a job, I got some money, I need toothpaste, so I go and I buy it at Target. It doesn't matter if there's fluoride in it. There's mindlessness going on in this world. The matrix is full of the mindless actions. So kind of cast that vote for yourself to raise your mindset and start paying more attention to these things. And of course, people along the way will help guide you, and that's what it's all about. But if you start with the idea of that vote needs to be cast for yourself and what you're doing. Too many people want to cast a vote and then complain and say, oh, well, because Biden's president, that's what the problem is. A lot of my videos are, if anything, closer to like a libertarian, but I'd probably be called more an anarchist. I mean, the way I just shit all over government, I But my talk, people, the Republicans and the right wing or whatever, they all come out of the woodwork, and some people think they're like, yeah, he's on our team, and then the other people are like, oh, they get triggered. And it's like, guys, I'm not on anyone's team. I'm just saying what you should all be thinking. But everyone gets sucked into the matrix, and so for me, voting doesn't matter unless you're casting the vote with your name on the ballot, and what are you doing to be your president of your life, right?
Nice.
Spot on.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think if we want to change the world, it first starts within us. We got to actually make the actions, and because really the world is a reflection of us. If we are changing things on the inside, then we all know how the subconscious mind works, right? We're drawn to the familiar, we're drawn to what we see. And so if we could be those examples, if we can start to make that change, then other people will start to be drawn to that exact same thing. And we're seeing that, like, we are seeing a progression of people, starting to choose more organic foods. Like, I remember when I first started eating organic, there was way less people eating organic food. There was way less people aware that there was government corruption. There was way less people even just kind of questioning the narrative. So I'm very grateful that people are starting to wake up, and the more people that are speaking up, just like we talked about like at the beginning of the podcast, right? The more people that are speaking up, more people that are telling their truth, more people who aren't afraid to get censored, to get trolled, to get whatever, get told you're killing grandma. Well, then it's really good that you come out and just be yourself, and just don't hide, don't be apologetic for standing your ground for something you believe in, because we need more men to stand the ground, because unfortunately we're seeing a downward slope of men standing up and saying enough is enough. I know I've talked to many people. One of them is Nathan knows. I think you guys might know him as well, Nikula Das. So he was in the Canadian government for a while, and he told me stories about how when he was, during the COVID times, when he was standing ground, he looked around, it was mostly women, right? Mostly woman there with him. And he asked, hey, where's your husband? Oh, he didn't want to get fired. He didn't want to get in the middle of this. How can you let your wife go out and fight this for you? You need to be, men need to stand the ground. There's a difference between men and women. And, we're seeing that right now, because a lot of men have been turned into more women, into more, feminine, with the beta male, with, all this. And it's a target. They're doing it through the media. They're doing it through the food. They're doing it through the schooling system, right? It's all built to just weaken the male population, because what happens when you have no more strong males? Well, people step in, right?
So. Yeah, I mean, that's a huge thing. It's definitely, a lot of stuff that I talk about is that attack on the male, right? And we're seeing that. But, back to the nutrition part, we want to know that when you're toxic, you don't think with your conscious mind. And so you're toxic, you're going to go, the frontal lobe gets shut off, and we start to go in our subconscious, and we start to look around, and, hey, I'm under attack on my own body. So I'm going to just look around and follow what people are doing. So that's, the number one thing somebody can do to try to take back their power is to try to clean up your diet. Right. And like we said, we vote with our choices. If somebody was to literally sit down and think, and I've done it quite a bit, where I look at the grocery store and I'm like, man, these are all the choices I have. This is it. This is all I have right here. Like, I'm going to the grocery store. This is it. Somebody else designed this place for me to come to and eat, and look at the shit that's in here. Right. And so that alone is like such an empowering thing when you go to the grocery store. And it's literally, I have like just 5 or 6 items around that I know I'm going to go get, because I've sourced them out, they're like the best version of what's there. And I think a lot of the men, they've lost that power of like taking charge of their own nutrition, right? They let their wife shop. They don't know what food does, what, different minerals, different nutrition, what they can do to build muscle or anything like that. And they just kind of go through the motions. So it's so important that men start to at least start to look into their nutrition and start to say, hey, I eat that every day. Is that good for me? Fluoride. I mean, holy shit, right? Like,
it's insane.
The parts per million, going to the dentist and getting one of those fluoride treatments is like 25,000 parts per million. I think it's 1,000 parts per million starts to cause like issues with your brain. And, you know, people just go there. They just like, yeah, I'll get an x-ray. Yeah, I'll get the fluoride treatment, you know,
Yeah.
just crazy.
I think a big problem with that, and it hurts our cause, if you will, when we say things like that, is that it's so pervasive and so accepted. How can we say something that's a fact, like fluoride is a neurotoxin, it's going to damage at any level? There shouldn't even be an accepted level because there isn't one, but there is one. But even though there is one, what they give you at the dentist is like leagues beyond that, and it's somehow for your teeth. And so when you come along, you're like, "Yo, what are you doing with this fluoride?" People are like, "What are you talking about, you crazy conspiracy theorist?" It's testament to how good the Matrix kind of spun this web of lies. And so it's a hard kind of arrow to pierce through that target sometimes. So I think one thing that I try and do with the fluoride and whatnot, and the way people eat, is you just ask them, well, how's that going for you? Right? Like, well, my wife just cooks and I eat whatever, or I just drink whatever I want on the weekends. It's like, all right, well, how's that going for you? Are you where you want to be in your life? And then at that point, it's on the individual. Some people put on the good armor and they say, oh, I'm fine, even though they're not. But a lot of times what I try and do with my clients is really kind of sink into that mind where it says, they hear my voice when they're looking themselves in the mirror. Like, wait, Matty's right. Am I happy? Am I doing all I can be doing? Am I in shape? Am I fooling myself? But with the fluoride and the ingredients in some of the food lists, you have to have the awareness. But it's a tough sell for some people because they literally will look at you like, well, I'm going to listen to you instead of the doctor. And it's like, well, what else can we do at that point? But what do you guys think? I mean, the Matrix is just, they are so good at what they've done. It's crazy.
They are. You got to give them credit too. Like, I think we should give them credit for this. But in terms of what you're saying, Matty, it's spot on. Like, people seem to have a love relationship with their doctor. They see them as this messiah figure. And if you come in there and say, your doctor's poisoning you, it's like, oh, my doctor would never do that. It's like, well, yeah, they will, and yeah, they do. I don't know what you guys see where you guys are, but I see a lot of people worship their doctor. They worship the healthcare system. It's like this great, wonderful thing when it's the complete opposite. I don't know what you boys see. What do you guys see?
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I think, we always talk about research and we talk about, do your research, those sort of terms. But I mean, at some point, someone does need to look at some of the numbers and they do need to look at some of the information. They do need to know who the players are. And, we've all uncovered that in our own life at our own sort of time frames. Most of us probably in the last 4 years, 5 years, really, right, have really delved into what's going on. And when you start to understand that, like, what the school system was designed for, who started it, who started the medical system, like at some point, the medical system was probably a good place, right? It was a place to go to for alternative things. I still think there's value there when it comes to acute care, right? If I break a bone, I'm not going to go to my neighbor Joe. I'm probably going to go in and get my bone fixed, right? But it's been taken over, right? And it's been taken over by the Rockefellers, and they own the curriculum that they're teaching, and it's just a modality, right? It's not me attacking and saying every doctor is this or every, they're white butcher coats. Yes, we talk about that, but it is taken over, right? And what is their goal? Is their goal to help you? Is their goal to treat your body as a compartment or as a whole, right? And we know it's a compartment, right? And is that the best? Is that giving results, right? As we mentioned, like, how sick people can be. Just look around when you're in your country and say, is everybody thriving? Oh, you don't look like you're thriving. What do you normally do for stuff that comes up in your life? Like, you get a sick stomach or whatever. I go to the hospital. Okay. If you kept that going and kept asking those questions, doing your own research, you're probably going to get 9 out of 10 of the unhealthy people you see all go to the same place. Then you got to start thinking, okay, where are the healthy people going? What's Matty doing? Matty looks in shape. Tanner looks in shape. Nathan looks in shape. Bryce looks, they're not hugely
You
overweight.
look good, Bryce. You look in
Thank
shape,
you.
man.
Appreciate it. But you know what I mean? Like, that could be research that people are doing, just kind of using your own mind to say, where are these people going for their information? I can tell you right now, I ain't going to the hospital.
No.
Right?
Not
I was
ever.
born in the hospital. That's about it. But that's just an important piece that people need to start to understand, that there are factions of our society that are controlled by certain people for certain, whether it's, financials or even a more sinister thing that we can definitely delve into. But that's not where you're going to go to get healthy. You're going to have to take control and vote with your own conscious decisions to get healthy, right? And sometimes it can just be eliminating things. It doesn't have to be like, you got to put all this stuff on your plate. I got to be taking the cold baths. I got to be, doing the MMA. I got to be jogging 5 kilometers a day. No, just eliminate some of the shit that you're doing and see how you feel.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I want to go back to just touch on, like, Matty was talking about the control system and how, like, it's really is a well-designed system. And well, I mean, they designed it around our mind, right? So they know exactly how this part of our mind works, the subconscious mind, which is what we all talk about, what we all teach. And there's a reason why it's not taught in school, right? How do we all go through life without knowing the most powerful part of our mind, how it works, how we're influenced, when literally 90 to 95% of our daily thoughts and actions are driven from this part of the mind? But yet we go through school, we go through life, no idea, right? People are, oh yeah, I've maybe heard subliminal messages, I maybe heard subconscious mind, but they don't really understand the effect of it, right? Like, even some psychologists I've talked to don't really have, like, they understand about, like, how the mind works, but they don't really understand the picture the way Jason has showed us and has illuminated it. And it's really important once you start to understand, right? Because the whole system is built to protect itself, right? They've literally infiltrated all aspects, right? When you look at, I think everyone knows that politicians, they're corrupt, right? We look at, like, everyone says, oh, I'm going to vote for this guy or the lesser of two evils, right? People know, even though they're voting. But what they don't start, when you start to question, oh, maybe the medical system is corrupt, maybe the education system is corrupt, they're like, no way, how could that happen? Well, look who controls those systems. It's the government, the same government that we all know is corrupt. So of course it's going to be corrupt as well, right? You can't, like, the source is corrupt, and that's really what it is. And when you start to just look at it, like, look at the facts, just look at, like, past things, like, you can look at, oh, let's look at the statistics from vaccines. I was gonna say, we're probably gonna get censored here, but when you look at this, like, the statistics from vaccines, right? Those statistics clearly show that there was a decline in all of these diseases before vaccines were ever introduced, right? But yet they're labeled as the reason why people are protected from injecting poison into yourself and you get health, right?
Yeah.
We just have, like, straight, like, logical fallacies in plain sight that people are considering normal, right? So this is why it's so hard, I think, to wake people up, because they're literally conditioned to believe that, like, blue is white or black is white or whatever you may want to say it. It's just, it is mind control on the absolute level. Like, it's insane. So
yeah, and I mean, you just nailed it right there, which is just consciously thinking about things, right? It doesn't take a lot of power. It just takes you a second to take a breath, sit down, start to think about things, right? Like, so we're going to get more healthy by going in and injecting something that could or could not be poison, right? Does that make sense, right? Alcohol in copious amounts is poison, and you can die of alcohol poisoning, but just, in moderation is healthy. Like, or prescription drugs. If you take the full bottle, it's really bad, but one a day is good. Like, the list goes on, and that's not really delving into, like, the control. That's just using your judgment to say, you know what, maybe I'd be a little bit better if I didn't take someone else's word for it, and I just started to do my own experiment, right? So even stuff that we're telling the people who are watching here, like, take it with a grain of salt. right? We did our own research. We went down that road. I went down that road with the shots and all those things, and looked at it myself. And I started doing that where I'd sit down and be like, hey, I don't know. I don't think that doesn't make sense. You know, our bodies are amazing. And I've recently just started getting into more of the mind, and been reading that book, The Source, which is like just chock full of so much information. Stuff as simple as like, you know, we've always been told we use 10% of our brain. Not true. Not true. Right. And we say that as a slogan because we've heard it a million times. And if you ask people on the road, how much of your brain do you think you use? I bet you any money people would say 10%, 10%, right? Mm-hmm. We have the capabilities of literally healing ourselves from the inside by just thinking. And we know this because we know the placebo effect. We know that that's a legit thing, right? So I think that's our space. I think that's what we're trying to help people with is start to take your power back, start to think like you were born to think, not what somebody else is telling you. And especially if you're subjecting yourself to, you know, all those negative influences, the TV. I mean, the TV is the number one, you know, military controlled. Let's put it in not just every home, but every room in the home so that you're never without it. And you're living by that. You're living vicariously through the TV, right? And slogans. So we want people to just start taking your power back.
Yeah.
Spot on.
And the saying, pay attention. What are you paying attention to? There's a reason it's called pay attention. Again, it's the energy exchange. And most people are so distracted and disconnected that what they end up paying attention to, again, aside from the nefarious evil, that's what we believe is in control of that. Even if it's not, it's mindless and it's not going to better their life. And so even back to what Tanner was saying, it's interesting. So Bill Gates, he does this thing where he recommends a book. I don't know. You'll see it on a video. He does every now and then. Bill Gates recommends, and I caught one where he recommended the book, How to Lie with Statistics. And I'm not joking, guys. One of the chapters or, you know, paragraphs or subchapters was about how with the polio vaccine, which I don't want to get us censored, but, you know, the one that everyone goes to, well, you know, why do you think polio disappeared? In the book that Bill Gates himself recommends to read is a chapter about how to lie with statistics using the numbers of polio, the decline in polio before the vaccine was administered, and how that applies to that vaccine. So it's, again, kind of back to like, some people throw up their hands, well, what am I supposed to believe? And then they default to believing what's coming out of the Black Mirror military weapon, subconscious programming for evil device. And it's, you know, we come along, we just say, hey, maybe, just maybe, guys, it's time to pause, step away from that, start paying attention, or at least kind of perk up a little bit and listen to some of these other things and give it a shot, because more of the same will come from doing more of the same. And a lot of times that's all it is. Like a lot of times with my clients, like you were saying, I think Bryce was saying this earlier, it's an elimination. It's not always an addition, or you don't just start telling them what to do. You say, hey, you know what? You're on your phone for an hour and a half laying in bed before you go to sleep. Maybe put the phone down. You come home and the first thing you do from work is you sit on the couch and put the TV on. Maybe go for a walk, right? And just reduce some of the things you're already doing, and then have people kind of help you out with what to do with that time instead. And if you have the right guidance, not saying that we're gurus or anything, but we all have results with the people we do work for or work with. And so you kind of got to start thinking a little different than what they want you to think, because they don't want you to think at all. That's for sure.
Spot on. I'm going to chime in here too. It's like they want you to believe anything really. They could tell you that anyway, just if you look at the pride flag for an example, it's the chakra system back to front. They have the purple at the bottom. If you guys know your chakra colors, purple's the crown. They have purple on the bottom, so it's like an inversion of the chakra system if you look at the pride flag next time. So there's something for people to consider as well, that they're actually inverting the chakra system now. That's how far this is going. Like, but listen, in terms of what you're saying, Matty, like we do have genuine results with our clients, but we don't just tell them you should be doing this, and this. It's like, hey, take baby steps, eliminate this thing, then this thing, and the things get easier and easier as you go. Like for all of us, I know we've all had our struggles with eliminating certain things. Mine was porn. It took me a long time to actually take control of my sexual energy and sexual power to then cast that aside and do this myself, like channel this energy myself, because I was feeding it away to a screen that, you know, as we all know, it's not real sex. So yeah, porn for me was the struggle, but it was also a turning point to then write my own comeback story. And we all have our own comeback story. So let's all start out there, people that are listening and watching, let's start writing that comeback story.
Yeah,
Porn
good stuff, buddy.
You go, Bryce.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, yeah, like I believe that we're all a part of a movement, right? And that's really what people need to understand too, is, you know, if you're doing all these A, B, and C steps every day, is that something that you're proud of? Is that giving you results, right? Just like Matty said, like, are you healthy? Are you thriving? Could you be better? And we all incorporate that in our life. At least I know I do 100%, where every day I'm working at something. Every day I'm like, I could do more, right? And that's sort of, I say it's an obligation. As a man, it's an obligation for us to be doing this sort of work. Doesn't mean everybody has to start up their own coaching business, which I do think is still everybody has something to offer.
I agree.
You know, and if we get into wealth talk or anything like that, definitely good to be like looking at something outside of the system. But it's an obligation for us to not be putting poison in our body, right? To not be sitting down and every time you see a pair of boobs, you know, ejaculating, that sort of thing, right? It's an obligation for us to not be having to drink poison to celebrate something every time, right? And we've all been programmed to do that. And that's the part that I find empowering. I find that so exciting to be like, I'm going to go against that. I'm going to say no to that. And that's how we vote with our actions. And that's what we want to do, is influence those people who are out there that are willing to listen, that want something different. We're not here to tell people how it is and how you should be. We're here to say, we've done this and we feel great about it. Do you want to be a part of this movement? If you do, join us.
Spot on. And what we did was, though, that we changed our world first. You know, we saw the truths of the world, and then we saw the truths within us, and the things that we were doing, and the things that we were saying, and the people that we were being. I know for me, I didn't like the person I was for such a long time. So I went in with the truths myself. It's like, well, why am I acting this way? Why am I doing these things? Am I being programmed to do it? And why am I scared of love? Why am I scared of asking that girl out? Why am I scared of speaking up? Why am I just going along to get along and blend in and fit in and just be like, well, you know, the last few years, all the COVID stuff, it's like, well, there was something inside of me that was like, I have to speak up about this. It's so blatant. It's so obvious. It's like so many people didn't see it. People were afraid to be around me and that, because I wasn't doing all the things, following the rules. It's like, well, that was my time. It's like, this is my time now to start speaking up about this. It's like, we find out the truths of the world. We find out the truths that exist within us, and we can go about changing it. You know, it's like, why am I scared? Why am I being this way? It's like, well, if you can work out why you're in fear all the time, it's the fear that they're putting into your screens too as well. Like, they're putting out so much fear. It's like, you got to fear the sun, you got to fear the cold, you got to fear the hot, you got to fear this, fear that. It's like, no, turn your back on that, and everything that they tell you to fear is the complete opposite. The sun's the best thing for you. Cold weather's pretty good for you too. Like, we don't have to fear these things. And then they tell you that a virus that's killing grandma and killing these people, it's like, well, no, that if you step outside, I can't see anything. It only exists on this thing and your TV. You know?
Yeah.
It's like we understand what's going on in the world, and then we go about changing our world and what we're doing, the things that we're doing, the people that we're being. If we can do that, then we can implement change, because it has a ripple effect on all of humanity. If people start seeing us become better, they want to mirror, mimic, and copy and emulate that. Well, we all offer them something better to mirror, mimic, and copy. And that's the work we're doing.
Absolutely. I liked what Bryce said about the obligation, right? And I absolutely believe that too, Bryce. And for me, it was a huge skyrocket of obligation when I became a father. And it was just, it made it easier, but I always did kind of have an obligation to myself. I did want to be better, or I was somebody who tried to pursue excellence and level up in life, but it certainly changed big time when I became a father. And yeah, a lot of the stuff like Nathan, you were saying with porn, like we were taught use it or lose it, right? And then everyone knows, I mean, I'm 43, so I was alive and conscious enough to know before the internet, the Playboy and my dad underneath my dad's bed was porn. But then once porn and the internet hit, I mean, forget about it. Use it or lose it turned into like, you grow up thinking it's normal to just beat off every day. And then when I'm a father, I'm saying to myself, that energy that came out of me created my son. And we're taught to think that it's normal to just sit there like a monkey playing with yourself and letting that come out of your body. What happens to you when you hold on to that energy? What happens when you know how to convert that energy within yourself before just, releasing it? And so I think it's funny that the topic of porn and sexuality is so pervasive in our society, but then having the balls even to be like, yeah, I used to watch porn all the time, or I don't watch porn, or I masturbate, or don't. It's like more men should be talking about and open. Like, dude, if you're masturbating and playing with yourself and just watching porn, and even if you're married, when was the last time you had sex with your wife? Like, these are such distractions that reduce you from being the man you're supposed to be. And the Matrix did such a good job with it that you have an obligation to start kind of analyzing this aspect of your life if you want to be a man. Because I don't think being a man is an age thing. And it's like, I don't think it's that when you're a father, you're a man, right? There are plenty of boys who have children. There are plenty of boys who are adults. There are plenty of boys who are 40. There are plenty of boys who died at 60. Being a man is an obligation to yourself and your family and the people you're supposed to protect and lead and lift up. And what are you doing? And again, what I try and focus on, the physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional. Those 4 areas of your life is what will make you a man. When you start saying, what am I doing today and every day to help myself be better in those 4 areas?
Spot on.
And I think porn hits all 4 of them in a bad way.
Yeah.
So they love the 1-2 punch, even the 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 combo, where they can get you at all 4. They'll go for that all day long.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with that. They are hitting us on all levels, and it's really important that we do take those individual actions every day, right? But even more than that, I think many of us just don't have those big goals. Like, people may be like, oh yeah, I want to be healthier, I want to have a 6-pack or whatever, but they don't actually get down to like, what is the goal, right? How can I actually get this goal? Because there's a lot of people go on like a weight loss journey, and they get frustrated and they give up after a couple of weeks, so they don't see the weight loss, right? Well, that's, you can't control the weight loss. You can control the individual daily actions you take every day, like working out, like choosing to eat something better. And really, that's how you make the change, right? So many people are getting lost on that big goal, that main quest, when really they can just break it down into smaller individual goals. That's how you get to where you need to go. That's how you make the change, right? And you start building those habits, which are really just subconscious programs. And we are habitual creatures. We like to go and stay with the familiar. So that's why you're encountering that self-sabotage. That's why you're encountering that resistance. And it's really important you become aware of, hey, I am resisting this, right? And it might be hard at first to make this change. It oftentimes is very hard. But the more information the more you're aware of what's going on, the more conscious you are, like we've been talking about, the more you're like, okay, why am I scared of this? Why am I even drawn to eating this way in the first place? Why am I drawn to, being a lazy piece of shit or something, just to sit around all day, right? Well, it's because, you're usually your past. It's the way society is set up, right? And we get comfortable with the easy way out, the quick fix that, we see it from society built into it with the medical system. Oh, instead of addressing the root causes of things, we'll just slap this Band-Aid, this quick fix on, take this magic pill, take this magic injection, and you'll be healthy again. You'll be protected from all diseases. That's not the way health works. That's not the way success works. That's not the way any of it works. It works with taking the individual daily actions step by step and putting in that work, which will make it a better life, which will make it more enjoyable, which at the end of the day is going to be the easy path long term, right? We got to start thinking long term and break free from that short term thinking.
I agree. And
Yeah.
start working on your emotions too. Like all these emotions going to come up. It's like, well, why are you in fear? Why are you sad? Why are you lonely? Why are you depressed? You know, we're very quick to go and have the alcoholic drink or have the dopamine hit from porn or have the junk food or do all these habits that are, or, you know, to numb our pain. It's like, well, why don't you sit with that pain and sit with that sadness and sit with that fear? Usually it will be the younger version of you that is playing out now. It's like, well, if you're in fear, well, what made you in fear when you were a kid? Was it something your parents said, a teacher said, a friend said? Was it a belief system that you had that you weren't worthy and that you weren't enough? People are so afraid to change. They're so afraid to do these things because there's a younger version of them that exists that had this belief system of that I'm not worthy. So sit with that unworthiness, sit with that fear and sit with that sadness and go back to that moment. Your subconscious records everything. It records 11 million pieces of information per second. You can go back to that. Yes, it is okay to cry. And I've done that myself. I've gone back to those younger versions of me that exist, sat with the fear, sat with the pain and sat with that sadness. And I learned so much. I learned, hey, I'm going to stand before that child as the older version of me, the healthiest version that I can possibly be, and tell that child what it needed to hear in that moment. And it's usually, I am you, you are me, we are one, we are together forever. And I'm going to show you the way. I'm going to teach you and show you that belief system is gone because I love you and we can go together and we can come together to live our best life now. You don't have to have that belief system anymore. It's such a powerful inner child meditation that men need to start doing. Start facing that fear and facing their pain and understand that, hey, this is a belief system. This is a program that I had from when I was such and such age. You can change that program, but men are so scared to cry. It's like you can cry. I did a meditation on Thursday. I posted that old photo of myself, which you men would have seen, that drunk photo. That brought up a lot of shit for me. I went back to a lot of versions of me that I hadn't shown some love to. And I laid down in the gym on Thursday morning with a mate of mine and did a meditation. And I cried for 35 minutes. I had every single version of me that existed from when I was born to the one that only existed last week. I went back there and I went, I love you. You can do this. You are worthy and you are enough. It was the most powerful thing I've ever done. I'm getting emotional talking about it. But on Thursday, I cried for 35 minutes, sitting with that fear, sitting with that fear of failure and the fear of not being enough and not being worthy. It was just a program I had deeply embedded as a child that I just brought that child in and I bought I even bought that drunk version and said, mate, what you did is fantastic because you're writing my comeback story. That version of me in that photo is my comeback story. And I just I laid there and I was just in an absolute avalanche of tears. And I got up off that yoga mat Thursday and I was empowered. I'm like, let's go. This life that I want is right here. I just got to walk through it. But I just had a bit of fear there. And it was 28 years of fear, boys. It was the most powerful thing I've done. I just sat there and just let it come out. And I felt so much better after it. That's what men need to start doing.
That's awesome.
And I mean, I think that brings us in a lot of stuff to unpack there between you and Tanner, what you were talking about. But I think that kind of brings us into the language we use, right? The emotions, the manifesting, the frequency, that sort of stuff. And, we have, we can put it down really simple. We have two ways that we can think about things. We can either go around and think negative thoughts or we can think positive thoughts, right? It doesn't mean you got to go around and be optimistic about every single thing, right? But it does matter how you think about things, right? And that's why you remember those emotions when you were a child, because emotion gets imprinted inside of us. And if it's negative, it gets imprinted. If it's positive, it gets imprinted. So we can think back through childhood and we can think about, something bad that happened. We remember it, all the stuff.
Yep.
We can think about something good and we remember all the stuff. So that's what one of the things I do talk with my clients is just the language we use, right? The simple language of being like, instead of saying, I hate winter. I enjoy summer more. Like, these are things we do need to relearn. We do need to relearn the language that we use because it is so important. And it keeps us in that frequency a lot longer. And if we're in that frequency and you want to think about manifesting or attracting, we're all energy. How did we get to where we are today? All four of us talking today, right? It's not from being negative and going with the flow, because men should never go with the flow, right? This is very important, a conversation to have, I think, with the language and emotion that we use. When we get up in the morning, do we think joy and abundance? I say the words joy and abundance every morning when I wake up, just because of that frequency it puts me in. I could wake up and say, shit, man, this is a stupid day. It's Monday, right? Where's that going to get me? Nowhere, right? It's going to get me the same results that I've had in the past, right? So I think once people start to understand, if you do want change and you do want to be a little bit better, you want to strive for a little bit more, you want a little bit more spiritual connection, you want a little bit more wealth, you want a little bit more health or a higher self or something like that, you do essentially have to change who you are. You can't keep thinking the same stuff you thought, or you're going to get the same results. So once again, I keep saying it's so empowering just to understand, maybe I don't know how it all works, but I'm going to try. I'm going to try to think a little bit different and shed my skin. We're meant to kind of switch and change. I've had people, reach out to me when I started this journey and be like, man, you're so different. You changed so much since high school. I'm like, yes, I have, right? I'm meant to. We're meant to change, and we're going to constantly be changing. And just to hit on Matt's point there about, being a man, I had someone ask me one time, like, when do you know that you've shifted out of the childhood into a man? Like, what's the actual time? And I said, well, there is no specific time, because it's daily. It's every day when I wake up, what can I do in what situation that's going to do what a man would do, or to do what a child would do, to think like a child, right? So it's a constant, it's a work in progress. We're all a work in progress. And once you start thinking like that, you start to understand that you can have solutions for every situation. You don't have to feel down as much. You can start to use positive energy and positive words. And then you can start to, hopefully I envision that anybody I work with or people that I talk to sort of want to become mentors for people around them, right? And they may not come out and say, hey, I'm a mentor to you. They may just start to say things like, hey, man, I noticed that you're kind of negative all the time and you got a lot of shit going on in your life. What if you just started looking at things a little differently and said, what's this trying to teach me? What's this trying to teach me? Well, can I think about something else? Can I think about what this is trying to teach me right now and move on and keep going with that? Hope that makes sense, right?
Yeah, asking questions. Always ask yourself questions. It's like, if you're about to watch the porn, it's like, well, why am I watching that porn? What am I feeling? What's going on inside? What's being stirred up? Have I had a bad day at work? Have I had a bad day? Has someone cut me off in traffic? Have I had a bad day? It's like, when people have their bad days, they resort to these things because it's comfort, it's safe, it's familiar. It's like, once you sit with that bad day, it will teach you something. You might have had a bad day and any number of reasons, but just sit with it and ask yourself, well, why am I doing this? It's like, what's the lesson here? What's this trying to show me? Did I get every red light on the way home? Is that red light saying, hey, well, slow down? There's always a lesson in something. Just ask those questions.
That's spot on, Nathan. That is what I use with a lot of my clients, and it really hits them good.
Yeah.
Is the pause. I call it the power in the pause. Because you're bringing then conscious awareness to the subconscious action. When you hit pause and you say, well, why am I doing this? And so for me, the big thing was when I finally stopped smoking weed every day, was because every time I went to smoke weed, I'd be like, well, why am I doing this? Oh, well, I'm going to the gym. I got to smoke before the gym. Oh, I had a workout. I got to smoke after the workout. Oh, I'm going to take the garbage out. Oh, let me hit the pole. It's like, when I finally said, well, what is the point? Why am I doing it? Why do I have to do it? And then I would still do it, but there was a conscious awareness and a question and a why moment that with that practice, Because again, it takes time. These things take time. None of us are up here speaking like this because one day we said, oh, I want to be better. And then the next day we said, okay, here I am. Like, it's not like Superman, Clark Kent going into the phone booth and you walk out and I'm a coach, and that's how it works. We all have our story, our kind of childhood. Like you were also saying, Nathan, I love that too. About another technique that I use is I have people say, okay, what's the future version of yourself? If we take like the quantum field of the future potential versions, a year from now, 5 years from now, whatever it might be, the ideal future version of yourself. You take who they are, what they're doing, and you reverse engineer that. Eventually you reverse engineer enough, you get to that kid that had that pain, that fear, that anxiety, that depression. The kid that didn't, in my case, like a kind of tumultuous relationship with his father that led to certain things. And then if that's the case, then like what you were saying, Bryce, if that's the component that you reverse engineered to, well, then that's the same root of this future potential that is amazing. So you can't look at it negatively. You have to kind of release it from the negative perspective and say, well, that's part of this beautiful future version of me. In fact, it's what helped me get there.
Yes.
So that technique of switching the mindset from like my past being this burden or regretful thoughts or ruminating always on the coulda, woulda, shoulda. When you start thinking of it differently and you say, okay, wait, what's the future version of myself like? How great are they? What are they doing? Reverse engineer deep enough, it goes to that same person. All right, now I'm in the middle. Oh, what am I going to start doing now? What are the steps that I do to change and to get there? And I find that helps people out a lot, because then they just say, oh, all right, like it got one of my buddies, just not a client, but just a buddy kind of like talking. He starts coming back to me, Matt, you know what, man, I started thinking, you say a lot about, just think about what you're doing. And next thing you know, I'm changing. It's like, well, that's a lot. Awareness is so much. Just having that awareness being brought to your life.
Yeah, powerful. Powerful, because I had a client only Friday, and I said the same thing to her. I said, that future version of you that wants the ranch and wants this off-grid property, that version of you already exists. You just got to shed a bit of this stuff to get there. So what I told her to do was, you envision the most healthiest, strongest version of yourself, and that woman that's standing there on that off-grid property, you merge with that woman and you tell me, what does it feel like? What does it sound like? What does it smell like? And what does it taste like? Become one with that version of you, because you're downloading the blueprint. And then that will start the shedding process of all this stuff you've just written in your questionnaire. You are shedding all of that to become that version of you that you wrote in the very last question, was the off-grid property. Avalanche of tears for it. And it sort of was advice to me too, because then I envisioned my dream of having the bush school in the community. I envisioned that guy. I mean, like, well, that guy exists. I've got to shed all this to get there. And it's so powerful just by sitting there and imagining that version of you that you want to be. Go up to that version of you and say, I am you, you are me. I'm downloading that blueprint. Let's start this process. It's so powerful because that version of you exists in time. Go up to that version and talk to it.
And I mean, it's so important because it does require work, right? Sometimes people think, well, I can just think about it, or I'm just going to meditate about it. But the idea is that you start to do the little things daily, every day. I love Aubrey Marcus, I think it is, he wrote the book about you live your best 24 hours. So like every time we wake up, our subconscious is ready. Our subconscious is ready to listen and look around. So treat every day like a 24-hour day. What can I do today to get me to the ranch, right? What can I do today to get me to lose that gut and get some more muscle, right? Is it going to be sitting down and watching porn, right? Probably not. Try to replace that activity with another dopamine release, which is working out 100%. And so, we're wired for negativity, right? And that's why, you see people on the highway and they're driving by an accident and they slow down. They slow down because they want to see what's going on in that negative. You're in the traffic and you're like, man, why is traffic slowing down? And when you get there, you look and I'm like, what the hell? It's just two cars on the side of the road. Like, why is everybody slowing down? They're not even in traffic. Right. So I think once we understand that we have those those two paths that we can take. We can follow our old belief system of negativity or looking at the world in a certain way, or we can start to shift to the new path. What if that other reality, right? And I find that, oh God, it gets me fired up when I think about, you know, just the decisions we make and the way we think is going to put us in that other reality. It already exists.
Yep.
It already exists, right? It's just that, how are we going to get there? Do we want the same results as we've always had? We'll just keep doing the same thing. Keep going to your job, coming home, doing your same thing, you know, without even thinking, eating the same cereal for breakfast, right? Or start to do something a little different, right? Take a cold shower and see how it feels. Not going to feel good, but it's different, right?
Uncomfortable is what it is.
Uncomfortable. And that, getting used to feeling uncomfortable is, I'll bring it back to men. Men need to have an obligation to feel uncomfortable sometimes and get used to it and say, you know what, I don't want to go down and work out right now. I really don't. But I'm on that path to that guy who, you know, I seen a friend of mine and he was ripped, and immediately I felt jealousy. And jealousy is not what I'm supposed to be feeling. It means I'm supposed to be doing that. It doesn't mean I'm jealous. I don't dislike that he's in shape. It means I'm listening to myself, and I need that. I need to look like that because I want that. So that's the motion that we need to be putting forward, and action will get you there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're spot on, right? We have to go into those uncomfortable spots because that's where the growth is. That is where the change is, right? If you just keep taking the same actions, the same comfortable actions, same inside your comfort zone, you're going to get more of the same. I think it's Albert Einstein says, you know, taking the same action over and over and over again is the definition of insanity. And really it is. I mean, I know I did the same thing, and I was like, why is my life, you know, like, why is this happening to me? And when I started to think more about it, be more consciously aware, I started to realize, well, it's because I'm not doing nothing but smoking marijuana, playing video games, drinking whiskey and cokes, and, you know, binge watching Netflix. Of course, my life's going to be where I am because I'm not moving forward towards my goals. And that part of that was just, I didn't have a clear goal, right? You know, sure, I wanted to have a family or be successful, but I didn't have a goal written down. I didn't have, you know, plans. I didn't visualize my goal. It kind of goes back to what Nathan was talking about with the visualization. And, you know, look at all the great athletes. Before a game, they'll go out and visualize themselves going out and winning that game, right? The greatest rock climbers in the world, they'll visualize themselves what path they're going to take when they're climbing those rocks, right? Same way. And the reason why it works is, well, it's backed by science. It's backed by quantum physics, you know? And just like Bryce was saying, not everything, you know, both realities exist. That's because everything is just made of energy, right? What's made the difference between you, me, Matt, Matty, Nathan, and Bryce? Nothing. Between this computer screen, between this wall behind me, it's all the same stuff. We're all made of the exact same stuff. And so the words coming out of our mouth, the thoughts in our heads, that's all the same energy. It's just energy. It's just energy. And that at the end of the day, what we're putting out into the world is we're going to bring back more of.
Yep.
So if we're putting out that negativity, we're going to get more negativity in return, right? If you start to put out more positive, you start to believe in yourself, you start to say, hey, you know, this may be a shitty situation, but I'm going to make good time of it, right? You may be stuck in traffic, and the guy in the car next to you may be stuck in traffic too. One person could have a road rage, you know, incident. The other person could be doing affirmations, just singing random songs to themselves in the car. One person might be, hey, I'm going to call my loved one while I'm on the, you know, in the car. Take that time and make it useful. It's happening for a reason. So, you know, just take those actions and choose to make the best of it, right? It makes me think of, there's a man named Viktor Frankl who was in the Holocaust, and most of his family died in the Holocaust. He was in a concentration camp, and he has a book. He has a book where he talks about how he was able to keep a positive attitude during that time. It rubbed off on the guards there, rubbed off on other people, and he's attributed to why he's able to make it through. right?
Great book.
So I like to think about when I'm in spots. Yeah, exactly. I like to think like when I'm in spots where I'm like, man, this sucks. Well, if this guy can keep a positive attitude in a concentration camp, I can keep a positive attitude in traffic. I can keep a positive attitude when maybe things aren't going my way, because I know I can make those changes. And if I keep focusing on what I do want, I'm going to get more of that, which is just manifestation, quantum physics, prayer. It's all the same thing, just different names. It's just focusing on what you do want, putting that intention out there, and the universe is going to bring it back to you. It's the law of the universe.
It is law of attraction, brother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, what's the worst can happen, right?
Yep.
That's, we can say this all day, that like thinking positive will get you results, or doing little steps. And then someone's like, yeah, I don't want to do the work, but it's like, just give it a try. Just give it a try, right? What's the worst can happen? That things start to change, right? Maybe you don't believe in energy, or maybe you don't believe in laws of attraction, but the point is that you need to shake things up, right? Shaking things up is important. And back to your point about, the athletes, I mean, another thing, they don't ejaculate before games, right? We've heard that a million times, like, no sex before the big game, right? Because you're releasing that energy, you're releasing the testosterone. So I know we've stuck on that point a few times, but that is a big thing right now, that you can, look at porn 24 hours a day for free, right? That's a part of the attack on the male, right? We don't want to be lending our time to that. Another big thing is, back to your thing about mindset, cancer patients. There's been a lot of studies that have been done where they took a bunch of cancer patients and just had them think positively. And then they had ones think, the negative thoughts you would think if you're struck down with that, right? And of course, the results were the people who were positive came out on top, right? So back to that point about understanding that a lot of the stuff we've been told. We didn't find it out ourselves. We were told these things. And a lot of it, unfortunately, is not truth. It's not your truth. It's not my truth. It's just somebody else's, what they deemed as being truthful. So, if we can start to get in that mindset of being like, what, it's amazing. It's an amazing time to be alive, right? It's an amazing time to feel this movement of people. And we see it. I'm sure your social medias are littered with like, all of our other friends and stuff, people we haven't met. I haven't met you guys in person, but like, I feel like you guys are more friends than people that I see every day in my own town, right? And I just feel like that 100th monkey effect is happening, right? It's everybody starting to feel like there's more to life. Like I read something recently about how, with this whole gender stuff that's going on, how women literally are birthing a soul into this realm.
Yep.
And it just struck me as like, yeah, of course, I have a boy, and, I was there for my wife's pregnancy and birthing and stuff, but like, it blew my mind. It was one of those things you hear every now and then, and you just sit with it, and you're like, you literally birthed the soul in here. That's like 1 in a trillion odds of it happening. And we have this other agenda that's like, yeah, just end your baby's life. End it at any time. Right? That is one of those things that I stand true and fast on. And I don't agree with it, and I'll never agree with it, to end somebody's life. Right? I know there's extenuating circumstances that happen, and women get taken advantage of, and things happen, and that child is such a blessing. On this planet, on this realm. It really is, right? And so for, you don't need to have a child to know that to have that stance. I just think people need to start getting in that mindset of almost like sort of a child wonderment of what could happen. What could happen if I started to stop, binge watching those shows, or getting on social media and be like, what can I watch tonight? What you can do is you cannot watch that and do something that you normally wouldn't do, and see what happens, right? See what happens, because we know, we just read a book. We just look around, man. Like, it's the society is not thriving, right? And in order to be a part of that, we need to start showing up for ourselves.
Agreed.
And it can be small baby steps. I'm not preaching. I don't want to come off like I'm telling somebody, you should be building muscle every day, but I do say it for men, start doing it. Start doing it now, because you're going to gain so much confidence. You're going to feel good about it. You're trying, men out there trying to attract a certain woman, but they're not bringing anything to the table, just the same stuff they've always had. They're going to get the same result. You're going to attract the woman. Sure, you're going to have a relationship, and it's going to end the same way as your previous ones did. Right? But if you start putting down those core values that you have, those pillars that you're not going to budge on, building strength, right? Looking at your nutrition, speaking with confidence, speaking your truth, you're going to start to be somebody else without even knowing it, right? And we've all gone through it. I can firmly say, I know all you guys have gone through that. You've gone through a shift in your life. You can't explain it. It just happened. It wasn't overnight, and it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop.
Yeah, there's just something about confidence and truth. A lot of times people, they lack the confidence, but they may have a truth inside, but they lack the confidence, or they have confidence, but it's fake. They're living no truth, right? So there's a big kind of like disparity in the world right now between confidence and truth. A lot of people with the most confidence out there are speaking total bullshit. They're very confident, but it's nonsense. And then there's people like this is something I suffered from, where I had that, what do they call it? Imposter syndrome, right? Where and this was even tied back to like my childhood and this idea of, well, if I'm just perfect, I won't get yelled at. And that's where I had anxiety and fear, right? Like, oh, my dad's coming home. Like when I was a kid, like my crazy German dad, what's he going to find to yell at me for? And if I just be perfect, then I won't get yelled at. And so that created anxiety and this perfectionism. And then I can't act until I'm perfect. And it helped me excel, and it helped me hold myself to a standard. But it also was a self-sabotage, component of my self-sabotage. And then so I get older and older and older, and all of a sudden I feel like I'm dialed in with these things that are true and meaningful, and those 4 pillars that I talk about. But I had no confidence to kind of like live it or speak it to other people. And so I don't know if, I'm sure the martial arts, right? Like there's confidence in being a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right? There's confidence in kickboxing, knowing that you can handle yourself physically. But the confidence came more in the connection to the idea of you have to live your truth. And if you're living your truth and you're a man, you have to speak it. You have to. And so it was uncomfortable, and I didn't want to. And I knew that I was ruffling feathers, and I knew that I had many circles and friends that were, what's Matty talking about now? Or this guy's crazy, or there he goes again. And I didn't want to upset these people. And I didn't want, I know that they're then sitting in the other circles talking about me behind my back. And I didn't want that because I'm a likable guy and this, that, and the other. It's like, no, there was something about that confidence and truth connecting that has now exploded me into the next stratosphere of, I don't give a shit. I'm here to speak my truth. I'm here to live my truth. And if I'm talking the talk, I better walk the walk. Right. So I don't like this idea of being a hypocrite. And so when you put yourself out there, I tell this to a lot of people, whether you think you're confident or ability to do something or not, don't leave kinks in your armor if you're speaking some of the things we speak about, because then it's going to be easy to shoot the messenger and knock our message down. So the delivery matters, right? I know a lot of times I might be, hey guy, I speak, I cut to the chase, but I feel like I can do that because I'm not leaving many kinks in the armor of what I'm saying. And I have the confidence to back it up. And hopefully I'm showing by example that I'm not just speaking out my ass, right? I did the work. I'm not just somebody that decided to start making videos. It's like, I'm trying to help humanity. I'm trying to help my fellow brothers. I'm trying to make the world a better place for my son, because I see evil everywhere. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Right? Like the confidence and the truth, they kind of go hand in hand.
They do. I agree with that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I use analogies sometimes of like that nobody is actually who they are. And what I mean by that is you're a version of yourself. People are going around and they're being influenced by everything. And so they drive a certain car, or they mow their grass on Saturday, and keeping up with the Joneses or doing those mundane tasks. Is that who you really are? Right. And so when I ask people that, back to our point about sitting down and taking a breath and thinking, there are a lot of times they're like, well, that doesn't really explain who I am. No, I'm not really that person. But that's all you do, though. That's what you do, right? You wear that type of clothes, and you eat your burgers on Friday, and so I think that's kind of the point I'm getting at, is that we have to be speaking our truth, and sometimes it makes us feel a little uncomfortable, and it makes people around us feel uncomfortable, but we're not here to tell you how it is. We're here to show people that they can have a voice and speak their truth, right? I'm not here to show somebody you have to think like me and do what I'm doing, but I'm here to show you, in my life, when I started to speak up, same idea. I was I like to please people. I was a people pleaser, right? And for Matty to be a perfectionist like that, that's one of those things where it's one of those self-sabotage personalities. You can never be perfect, right? As a perfectionist, you can never be perfect. So once we understand that, and we understand that there is a truth that we can be speaking, it could be a small truth, but we encourage you to speak up, because that's what we need. We need voices. We need people to be mentors in their own life. And there are certain things that I believe we need to stand fast on, and that's poisoning ourselves, poisoning our children. We need to be speaking up on that matter and saying enough's enough. I'm not fucking doing it, right? I'm not doing it. And once you start to do that, you start to understand who you are. You're somebody who won't put up with that, right? Now, all of a sudden you start, what do I stand for? Now, all of a sudden you have things you stand for. Right now, you're starting to think with your conscious mind and not with the subconscious mind. Like, if somebody asks you a question about who you are and you kind of sit there and you're like, I'm not really sure. Well, then you got some work to do.
Spot on.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And I think it's really important. Like, you guys both were right on spot with that. Like, a lot of people don't know why they're doing the things they're doing, right? They're just going through their subconscious actions. They're just going through what everyone is doing because everyone else is doing it. And it's interesting because a lot of people don't really realize they're doing this, right? Like we see with like that influencer video with Justin Willman from the Netflix show, Magic for Humans. These top influencers, they didn't think they could be influenced, right? But it was so easy for him to just go in and just get them to choose exactly what he wants them to choose. And that's exactly what's happening to us, all of us in our life. That's why this system of control, this matrix, if you will, is so hard to break, because they're using this information to manipulate the most powerful part of your mind. And it's really as simple as that. And that's why the information that we teach in our coaching programs, where we teach you guys about this part of your mind, about the subconscious mind, this is where, in my belief, why I've been able to move so far forward in life is because I understood, wait, this is why I'm taking the actions that I'm taking. You always hear, oh, it's just willpower. You just have to have willpower. Well, it's not all just willpower. There is partially because your mind is being influenced. You are literally being hacked every single day, whether in school system, whether in the grocery store with the news playing, whether in, or some like Miley Cyrus song or something, right? Or, with the people in your office. Like when I go into my office, how much perfume, cologne, how much coffee is around, how much just garbage food. I walk into the cafeteria, I wouldn't spend any of my money on like any of that garbage. And really, it's just what people think is just normal, right? People, when I tell people I don't eat that stuff, they're like, "Oh, you're picky." Well, it's not picky, right? It's being aware of what you're putting into your body, right? And I think that's really interesting because people would rather play it off as, "Oh, you're picky," right? Because they don't want to really think about, well, why is he saying no? It makes them feel uncomfortable. And that's, once again, you have to go out of your comfort zone to grow. If you want to know why we're saying the things that we're saying, then you need to do your own research, like we talked about. You need to go out there and stop putting this stuff in your food. You need to do some research. What's in your food? Have you read the ingredients on the back of on the food you're buying, right? Most people have no idea what's in their food. If you look at the back of your ingredients list, could you tell me what things are in your food? Is it actual food? Is it chemicals? Is it preservatives? Right? Ask yourself, why are they using yellow dye 40 to keep these jalapenos green? Right? Ask yourself, do we really need that in it, or could we use something else like some turmeric? Right? Like what is the reason they're doing these things? Why are they putting these things in there? How come they're putting some high fructose corn syrup in your drinks, in your foods, right? Instead of just using natural sugar.
Yeah, and
These
like
things need to be asked.
Yes.
to further that point too, like, you know, I talk a lot about testosterone, and so that's a classic example of, you know, men who are like, you know, they're low on testosterone, but yet they're doing all the things that are leading to the low testosterone. So it's sort of just thinking, right? Just getting your mindset in there. But, you know, to further that point, Gatorade, we've seen all from my childhood. Gatorade was like, you know, all the athletes are endorsing Gatorade. None of them drink Gatorade.
Yeah.
Right? They're drinking a mixture of electrolytes, which is like some salt in water, but they're not drinking Gatorade. But we've seen, you know, you can picture it now, right? And that's just an example of the programming. The big orange Gatorade jug gets thrown over the football coach. Gatorade here, Gatorade there. So when does marketing start to become sinister, right? And that's a big part of understanding, you know, sort of our social engineers, and why are they putting those things in place? What is it doing to me? And how do I rebel, and how do I vote against it? You have to eliminate some of that stuff. But yeah, it's just so crazy, like using these celebrities as an authority figure, right?
Yeah.
The whole slogan, ask your doctor. I mean, you can turn over a label and you can see it on the back of the label, ask your doctor. Like, why are we thinking about going to our doctor for anything to do with health, longevity, right? All the stats show that it's not going to lead to longevity to go to the doctor, right? They're not trained in nutrition. They're not trained in mindset. They're trained in one modality, one type, right? And if you go there, you're probably going to be sick at some point. So yeah, I mean, yeah, we could chat all night about, you know, that sort of stuff. I'm sure the sinister stuff that's in place, but yeah, there is a matrix there. And, you know, a lot of people are just going by their subconscious, and, all you have to do is sit down. And I always encourage my clients to get a little journal and write down what you're doing. These people will always throw out these like bumper sticker slogans of, I don't have time. I don't have time to do that. Okay, let's write down what you do in the run of a day, and let's see if we can substitute. I guarantee you can substitute something for one of the other behaviors, right? So these subconscious like slogans that get implanted and impregnated in our minds, we could almost do a round table on just that alone, right?
Yep.
And maybe we will at some point.
Yep, spot on. And I tell my clients the same thing. It's they say they don't have time. It's like, well, how much time are you spending on your phone? How much time are you spending watching TV? And they're like, well, yeah. It's like, well, if they're watching 4 hours of Netflix, if you just cut that by 2 hours, you can, that's 2 hours to meditate. That's 2 hours to go for a walk, go for a run, work out. It's 2 hours to do something positive. Then if you cut that again and you got 4 hours, that's a long time. It's like, you've got the time, you just do other things to substitute. It's like, well, why don't you turn your back on that, find something that can help you, you can progress forward rather than progress back. And just a little quick message for those out there. It's like, don't let fear and don't let being afraid hold you back from speaking your truth and being who you're supposed to be. If you want to talk spiritually, we get a few goes at life, but in this current lifetime, we get one shot. Why would you want to lay on your deathbed, looking at those around you that you love, and you say, I could have done this, I should have done that, I could have had that, I could have had X, Y, and Z, and I could have been something great, but I didn't. Don't let fear stop you. I don't care if you're 90. I don't care if you're 90 years old, nearly 100 watching this. You can still change your life. It's like people go, oh, I should have written that book, or I should have done this, I should have done that. It's like, well, why don't you go and write that book? Why don't you got one shot. Why don't you lay on your deathbed, looking back on your life in front of your family and say, you know what? I lived a fucking good life. I did exactly what I set out to do, and I'm proud of who I've become, and I love all of you, and I can't wait to guide you into the next life. See you later. What a conversation that would be.
Mic drop.
Bang.
Yeah. See you guys soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
I
get
love
one
that.
shot, boys. Why not make it count?
Well, I said something to my buddy. I was on the phone with him the other day. I forget what the topic was, but he's like, well, you only live once. And I was like, you die once. You live every day.
Yeah.
But some people, that's not the case, right? But and I also say it's never too late. You're never too old to still become the best version of yourself or the better version of yourself. And that future version, if you're still breathing, and I think it was either Tanner or Nathan when I was on your podcast. I think I made the point. I hope that on the last day of my life, the day I take my last breath, I still have an ability to sit back and say, I just learned something. Or, oh, wait, leveled up. I'm still leveling up.
Yeah.
And you know, you want to have that kind of fire, like that. You want to stoke that fire of growth and just, man. And so something else I wanted to mention, you guys were talking about just with nutrition, and like, it's not that any of us get to a level and then the door closes behind you and that's it. You know, it's like a spiral staircase. And so for me, I haven't had a Coca-Cola or a Pepsi, the soda drinks in over 10 years. But until I addressed the fact that it was a sugar addiction, I repurposed that with Snapples, right? And then it took a while for the Snapples to get done. And then there was Gatorades, and then these other Frankenstein foods of different drinks with the fake sugars. And next thing you know, I'm like, all right, I'm just repurposing. I finally clear it all out. And then next thing you know, I'm like, but I had a ginger ale because a ginger ale didn't have caffeine and I just wanted a soda. Next thing you know, I'm like, shit. When I'm thinking about what I want for dinner, I'm like, well, let me stop and get the ginger ale first because I want to have the ginger ale dinner. And if I just let that mindlessly go, next thing you know, for sure, I'm drinking ginger ale every day again. And so for me, what happened was I'd be in the grocery store and I'd get that little trigger again. And a few times I'm still buying the ginger ale, I'd look and I'd say, hold on a second, this isn't the ginger ale. And I'd stop and I'd turn it around and I'd look and I'd see high fructose corn syrup, first ingredient. And then I'd say to myself, why on earth would I want to put high fructose corn syrup in my body? And I literally would put it back on the shelf. And now finally I can say, yeah, I'm scot-free with that again. Does that mean that I'm never going to end up drinking one of those drinks again? I don't know. But the moment and the power was in the awareness and saying, okay, wait a second, why am I doing this? And am I trading 3 to 5 minutes of taste pleasure for what that's doing to my body? For what? Is that what a man does? Is that what somebody who's helping other people get off of these drinks does? And again, you look yourself in the mirror and you say, no, it's not. That's not what a man does. That's not what a leader does. That's not what somebody who sees the future version of himself and says, well, shit, man, he's not drinking that stuff. How can he be drinking that stuff? Do the people that you know, a lot of times with me, I say, is the guy who's shredded, is that athlete who is shredded? Like you guys said, is he drinking the Gatorade? Hell no. Is he drinking ginger ales with his dinner? No chance. And people say, oh, well, I don't want to live that way. And, you know, it's too hard, or he's restricting himself, or like Tanner, you were saying, oh, he's a picky eater. It's like, no, the awareness came full circle to why on earth would I put that in my body? I am a divine, spiritual representation of this amazing energy. And I'm going to just beat the shit out of it. Or like, I love the way Jason says, you know, treat my mouth like a trash compactor. It's like, no, dude, why?
And there's pleasure in the knowledge, right? There's pleasure in the knowledge of making the decision to be like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to drink that. Yeah. I don't want to drink that. And, you know, there's pleasure in that, right? I read a study and I read a study ages ago about this lady who was like 300 pounds and she literally done nothing else. But whenever she was going to make a decision about eating, she said, what would a skinny person do? Or what would a healthy person do? That's all she did. She never went on no big diet. She never had no big plans. All she did was look at her little decisions every day. What would a healthy person do? And literally that's how she got down to her ideal weight, right? So people need to start thinking with their choices And that's where our training comes in. That's where the subconscious training comes in. The knowledge of how your mind works. I find that that's the best way to empower somebody to understand why they make the decisions they make, and that maybe you're not in full control of those decisions when you're subjecting yourself to, you know, the Edward Bernays of society, who's like, he knows groupthink. He knows how our mind works better than we do, right? And they don't tell us all the information. Even one of the guys who's involved with, you know, Tavistock and you know, basically setting up all those sort of social engineering experiments, they don't even watch TV. They don't even watch TV because they said, I'm afraid to watch TV because of the power it has. I don't even know, even though I know what it is, I'm afraid to watch it because of the power it has. So that's probably one of my biggest, you know, go-tos right away. If somebody would say, what could I do today? What could I start doing right now? I know nothing. I'm not going to do any research. Limit your TV time.
Yep.
And you can watch YouTube. You can 100%. My YouTube list has got about 90 different subscriptions on it, 90 different channels that I subscribe to. And they range anywhere from, you know, meditations to, you know, one of our coaches, Ben, I've got him there, which is literally just tonals, right? Just frequencies that you can turn on and you just hear the tuning fork, to, you know, Joe Rogan, to whatever, right? Like, there's so much there that people can start to shift. Like, how am I consuming information? Let's start with the TV, right? Let's get away from somebody else producing content for a reaction in my life to, I'm going to listen to something and take it in consciously and see if I agree with it, and then go on my way, right?
Spot on. Be an awesome podcast, boys. Man, if there's one message for someone that's, like, for a man that's listening, we might as well have all three of the answer, and then I'll answer at the end. If there's a piece of advice there for a man that's been listening and it's just gone, shit, this is why I've been doing these things, what would be your advice to that man that's listening right now? Even that woman too. What would be your advice to say to start their journey of empowerment and to start their journey to become better?
I'll jump in.
Yep.
I mean, you're not alone. You're not alone. We're here. There's so many of us. We all started out like that as well, where, you know, we came into this realm of subconscious behavior, you know, healthy eating. I went through that whole thing of reading the labels and not knowing what the stuff was, but looking for just keywords. You're not alone. Reach out. We're here on social media. We're here to talk, especially with men, you know, mental health awareness, that sort of stuff. I'm here to chat with anybody who wants to just reach out and have a quick chat. You know, I'm always open. My DMs are always open for anybody who wants to reach out.
Tanner?
Yeah, I would say, well, kind of a couple of things. Sit down and just really face where you are in life.
Yeah.
You know, what, like, are you happy with where your life is, right? And start to be more consciously aware of, you know, if this was my life for the rest of my life, would I be happy? Would I be fulfilled? Am I just making it day by day, just surviving, living paycheck to paycheck, you know, working the 9 to 5, doing the same thing over and over, waking up again, doing it again and again? Or am I actually thriving? Am I enjoying this life I'm living, right? Like Matt said, you live every single day. Every single day you live, you have an opportunity to make something better. And I'm a big believer in asking for help. I think for me, that was one of the biggest transformations I've had, is when, one, I faced my pain, I realized I need to make some changes, and then I asked for help. I reached out. You know, I've worked with multiple different coaches. I put $10,000+ into, you know, working with other people, and that was the best money I've ever spent. Hands down, way over my college degree, over any schooling system I've ever had. Working with someone one-on-one was what has propelled me to where I am today, has gotten me to increase my confidence, be a better role model for my son, be a better man in general. And, you know, I'm very confident that anyone who wants the same can do it. It doesn't matter, you know, who you are, what you've experienced in life, how old you are, where you live. You know, we can all overcome self-sabotage. We can all move forward in life, but it has to start with you. No one can make you do it. No one can force you to do it, but there can be people here to help you, to give you a guidance so you don't have to make the same mistakes that we have. So you don't have to struggle through, that resistance that we face when we're trying to make some changes. There are ways forward that can be quicker, that can be more efficient. And it really has to do with the information that we teach about the subconscious mind, about, why you're self-sabotaging, about, just being more aware. So.
Nice. Matty?
Yeah. You create your life. Your life's not happening to you. You create it. You're in the driver's seat. Kind of take that power back and say, take a step back and say, am I happy with what I'm doing? Am I happy with who I am, where I am? Make lists. A lot of times people, they kind of live in their head, and it's easy to kind of analyze when you get it out of your head and onto paper. Make a list of the things that you're happy about. Always start with positivity. I think that's a big one. I start all my sessions out with, hey, what's good about the week, or what do we got going on? What are the good things? But write some things down that you're happy about, and then write the things that you're not happy about or that you wish to change. And then just bring the conscious awareness to your day of, is this for that, or is it against that? Is this what's helping me not be happy, or is this what's helping me be happy? Do more of what's bringing the happiness, less of what's not bringing the happiness. But from a health perspective, right? If you're happy because you're getting shit-faced drunk on a Friday night because you hate your life Monday through Friday, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, find the real happiness in your life. Get connected to what you know to be true for your happiness, outside of the self-sabotaging behaviors. And when you are honest with yourself, look yourself in the mirror, and you get connected, start reducing those things. It's a little bit at a time. So you don't have to do anything overnight. I love what Bryce said. You're not alone. There's plenty of resources. Just make it a priority in your life. Know that you're in control. You can get better and be better and have a happy, healthy life. But it's only going to start when you start thinking that way, when you start bringing that focus to your life. And again, awareness. You have to be honest with yourself and just say, hey, I'm in control. What am I doing? Is this the hand that feeds me, or is it the hand that poisons me? Is this the hand that makes my body stronger, or is this the hand that makes my body weaker? Is this the mind that brings happiness and health to my life, or is this the mind that brings self-sabotaging thoughts? Just start thinking like that, guys. And there's plenty of time, but there's not enough time if you're not doing anything, right? So start now. It's never too late, but you got to start.
I love that, Matty. I love that, Tanner. I love that, Bryce. It's been an awesome roundtable. I thank you for coming on. I'll finish with, just reach out and ask for help. It doesn't matter where you are on your journey. You could be a multi-millionaire or whatever you are watching this. It doesn't really matter. Reach out and ask for help, because it's the best thing we all did. And it's a massive program amongst men out there in society, especially the ones that are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. It's, you don't ask for help. It's a sign of weakness. Well, no, it's not. It's a sign of courage. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's magical. And it can change the trajectory of your life, and it can change the trajectory of your family's life and those around you as well. So always reach out and ask for help. We're all available. Our DMs are open. Our emails are open. All our details will be in the bottom. There's really no excuses to reach out and ask for help. There really isn't. We have tons of free advice. We have Zoom. We all offer free Zoom chats. There's plenty of free resources there. It's time now for you to start being better, so then we can all become better. So reach out and ask for help. Thank you, lads, for jumping on. What an awesome roundtable that was. A lot of hidden gems there. So I'm looking forward to re-listening to it. And thank you, men, for finding the time to jump on and do this. We're going to do it again, and I can't wait. So I thank you guys for jumping on again, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Bryce. Thank you, Matty.
And for those out there, let's all overcome our self-sabotage. And thank you for listening and watching wherever in the world you are, and I'll see you again soon. So thank you.